When you're thinking about nice, posh, luxury sedans, usually what comes to mind is Cadillac, BMW, Mercedes. Volkswagen, not so often. There was a vehicle called the Santana. Quite the elegant and beautiful four-door sedan. Get ready, I'm gonna tell you all about it. This is Lost In. Strap in, let's go. The Volkswagen Santana was originally sold in Europe as a four-door sedan, and it was based on the Volkswagen B2 platform. The name Santana was derived from the Santa Ana winds. It can be said that this beautiful little sedan was built by Volkswagen to be a world-renowned car. In addition to Germany, where it was launched in 1981, launched in China in 1983, 1984, Brazil got their own. Mexico, Japan, they got it at the same time. But Argentina didn't get theirs until 87. Nigeria, South Africa, Belgium, Spain, they all produced this little sedan as well. Basically, in a nutshell, through the 80s, the Santana was a prominent model on the world stage. Fancy. It was not a constructively sophisticated car, if you know what I mean.
Name's Jim. This here's my brother. His name's Jim too. We were named after different people though.
Because, you know, it was built of the B2 platform. Pretty basic. The motor was placed longitudinal and was suitable for the market it was targeting. Here in Brazil, it was a sensation, especially for a population that was used to what Volkswagen Brazil was producing at the time. Very Spartan vehicles. Not many luxuries. This sedan had attractive lines, much more showy than its sister, the Passat. And these two sisters, the Passat and the Santana, competed for 4 more years, conquering the heart of the Brazilian consumers. And there was an epic fight between Monza and Santana, but in reality, the VW model never really imposed itself upon the Chevrolet Monza, not even with some contributions of evolution. 1986, the Monza got a 2.0, Santana got theirs in 1988. Fuel injection, 1988 in the Monza, and 1990 in Santana. The Chevrolet was always one step ahead of the VW. The Santana had its qualities though, worthy of a medium mid-sized sedan. Volkswagen was betting on the larger AP motor with an 85 horsepower gasoline motor. The brand did also announce that the acceleration from 0 to 88 km/h was in 7.8 seconds, and it did have a maximum speed of 178 km/h. Nice! The Santana was fitted with a huge 75-liter fuel tank.
Range anxiety.
Which guaranteed a decent range. The two-door body was also offered, powered by the same 800 AP motor. It's good to remember at the time of this little VW's launch, the Santana was the most luxurious model you can get. And honestly, the GM's Monza really did not affect sales. GM would not let Monza interfere with the sales of the Opala. So there were limitations on how nice GM was willing to make the Monza. So in honesty, it never really affected the market for the Santana. Just listen to some of these options this little Santana had. LED spy lights for the dashboard. 1980s coolness. Electric antenna. We don't even know what antennas are these days. But back in the day, you used to have to get out and raise this thing up, like in the rain or in the snow or the blistering sun, and it burns your fingers. To have an electric antenna was posh. It even had electric headlight washers. I mean, come on. You only saw that on the Mercedes or like some very nice Volvos at that time. Woohoo! And in 1988, it even had a sunroof. Man, this thing was the bells and whistles. Now Once again, for VW, who was like notorious for like Spartan cars,
This is Sparta!
this was like quite the 180. It was well finished, looked and smelt like luxury. And the first version got the AP800 engine with a manual 4-speed gearbox. The Santana's 4-speed was in the entry model, and in the CG intermediate model did have an optional 4 or 5-speed gearbox. And the 5-speed gearbox was standard in the more expensive CD model. Brazil highly criticized the Santana at the beginning of its life for being underpowered. On top of having a low 85 horsepower, the gearbox was part of the 4+E, which was considered slow. The Santana on its release was considered slow to say the least, even being called tartaruga. 8 months later, Volkswagen had an answer to this, giving the engine longer connecting rods, increasing the diameter of the exhaust valves, increased the engine to about 90 horsepower. Upgrade. In addition to the right upgrades in the engine, the gearing was radically changed, making the gearbox a 5-speed manual. Yes! With these changes in the engine and the gearbox, performance increased drastically, thus pleasing everybody. At that time in the first half of the 1980s, all national engines were pretty much carburetor, and fuel injection really only appeared at the end of that decade. In the case of the Santana, we're talking about double body carburetor, the same configuration for all gasoline and alcohol engines. Whether with the 2 or 4-door configuration, it was all the same. In the second half of 1986, already being released as the 1987 line, the designation of water-cooled engines completely changed. What was the AP800 was changed to the AP1800, and the MD270 gave away to the AP1600. The change was mainly in the block, now consisting of the same AP1800 motor. Cylinder diameters were all the same, and they were increased to 81mm, but they had a shorter piston stroke, and only with a displacement of 1.6. Along with the engine changes came some upgrades in the name as well. The CL, the GL, and the GLS. From January 1985, the Santana name was dropped in Europe, except for in Spain. The car continued to be kept on sale through a facelift and henceforth be known as the Passat notchback until the B2's discontinuation in 1988. 1991, Volkswagen do Brasil joined a joint venture with Ford named Auto Latina. Volkswagen do Brasil decided to maintain the B2 Passat sedan rather than pursuing the more advanced B3 platform. Thorough changes to the boot line, body shell, front and rear guard meant it looked considerably modern, considerably more than its predecessor, if not quite at par with the B3. But for the terms of Auto Latina, this new Santana was also sold as Ford Vacer. 1991 also introduced the mandate of ABS brakes, catalytic converters, and these were both huge advancements for the Brazilian auto market. And you know, it received a mild facelift in 1994, and another more extensive in 1999. After more than two decades of production, and you know, its later years, it was dropping in sales. This old girl Santana was retired, put to pasture. In June 2006, it had sold over 548,494 units. Beat that. And this was all in its 22-year lifespan. And that's basically the story of the Santana. I'm sure there's a lot I missed, a lot I didn't cover, but I look forward to everybody letting me know in the comments. I really thank you for your guys' time and energy here. And until next time, até a próxima. See you on the flip side.